Hello there, today is day 33 of working on a currently untitled project, so let's hop right in. So I tried making some variants on the wall models today. I have 3 variants in the engine right now. There's the first variant that I had, then there's the second variant. This one is designed to work with translucency. The first one is not really set up for that. There's a slight modification to the outer corner model as well. The third variant is same as the second, but it's thinner, and it also the lines are thinner, and the highlights are thinner rather, and the flares are gone for the corner. Oh, there's also no, those are still there on that one, but yeah, all 3 flares are gone for the inner corner. So as noted, I've tried making the walls translucent. I'll get into the textures in just a moment. Unfortunately, there is a deep-seated issue with that. It's very hard to video properly. It shows up right around here, but it's like 1 pixel wide. So, or 1 pixel tall, I guess in this case. So I'm not sure if it's actually showing up on screen. There's no real way to enhance that. The problem is that actually maybe it's possible to get it over here more clearly because there's no texturing. I'll see if I can get it while I chat out. The problem is that it's the reverse problem of there being gaps in the textures or in the models. Even though the models are perfectly aligned, just due to floating point error, previously there were gaps, and there would be like dark pixels in between the models, even though they were supposedly, it's showing up. You can see it in a few places around here, at least on my screen. Again, I don't know if it's coming through in the recording. Long story short, it's a problem. Previously there were gaps, now there are overlaps because of translucency. That means that the pixels actually end up being more colorful or more intense. That one showed up right there for a moment. And so it's the reverse problem. I have 4 different solutions to this in mind right now. I'm going to go through those in the rambling section. So as noted, I added a global texture pattern to test this out. I don't really like it. I don't think it looks good. I feel like if I have a pattern like this, it should be... This is actually re-encountering the exact same problem I had with the shell pattern for the Titan. It feels like it should be more alive than just what's over here. So this just doesn't look right. It looks very static, it looks very unalive. So I'm not sure where to go with this, but this is an attempt at least. It's something, was worth seeing how it looked at least. Maybe I go with something similar to this, but right now I'm not feeling it. So that's all the core stuff. If you want to listen to me ramble, feel free to stick around. If you want to click off, feel free to do so. The issues with making the walls translucent, like I said, I have 4 different solutions in mind. One of them is minimizing or maximizing the alpha near the edges. This way, I wonder if I can possibly get this by... You know what I'll do? I will just go ahead and just move this slightly here so that you can see sort of what I'm talking about. Only this is like 1 pixel thick instead of, this thick. It's not a result of the wall being moved, it's just how it is right now, due to floating point error. So it's a pair of solutions in one. It's basically either minimizing or maximizing the alpha at the transition point. So basically, like having it be translucent in the middle, and then near the edges have it maximize the alpha. I'm not sold on this being a good idea. I can try it out pretty easily now because I did UV unwrap the models properly on the third version at least. So I can now give that a shot. That was just something that I did just a little bit ago, so I haven't had a chance to test it out. My worry is that it's going to just look super repetitive because you're going to have it, just down the line, and it's just going to emphasize the nature of this being a modular environment, and I just don't think it's going to look good. I think it's going to look really bad. Or at least super repetitive and just jarring and, not fun to engage with. Whereas right now it looks more sleek, more professional, I suppose. In terms of exactly what's best, it's an option, but it's probably pretty cringe. Another solution, which is sort of extrapolated from what my old friend told me about models and stuff you can do with them, or when you're trying to make modular pieces, is sticking stuff in between the models. So like having little gaps and just sticking other stuff in there, and then you don't need to deal with the seams because that's just, there aren't any seams to be had really. This is an interesting idea. It would require more assets, which means that it's not... I probably shouldn't do it right now unless I have some good ideas. After talking to them or something. And in general, it might not fit with the aesthetic. It's hard for me to say without giving it a shot, I guess, but yeah. It might be nice to have more detail. It could be a chance to give a bit more to the environment, but I also think it'll run into the same problem of, you'll just have this and it'll just down the line it'll look repetitive because it is repetitive. I don't know why that's off center. That shouldn't be off center. That's why these are all weird values, isn't it? Yeah, that's exactly why all those are weird values. Unfortunate. I must not notice that when I was setting this up. Whoops. Anyways, not much to do about right now. So option 3 is the hard one. This is that I block out the rooms in Unity, I make what I want in Unity, and then I port things over into Blender and actually make the mesh there, and I combine everything into one singular mesh, and that way there are no seams, there are no gaps, there is no floating point error, and that will remove this problem. This is terrible for all sorts of reasons. It would only be suitable when I'm right at the very end of production, because I do not want to waste time on this before that point. And that sucks for a few reasons, but the big thing that just sucks in general is, like, if I want to make changes to the walls, for example, like if I just want to change the wall mesh, I not only need to update all the wall meshes, I then need to update every single room that uses them, which means going into every single Blender file, and I assume that there are mass replacement tools within Blender that I could use, but just sort of no, you know, like it is probably possible. I don't think it's reasonable to do this. Not for modular level design, not when things might change on the fly. They probably won't change near the end of production, but, you know, that's sort of the whole point of having a modular art style, is that you're able to change it and everything updates everywhere all at once. Which leads me into my fourth solution, the one that I'm probably going to go with, is that I could write an algorithm that, at startup, merged all the meshes into one big mesh, and for whenever it finds two vertices that are nearby each other, averages their location, sets both their locations to that averaged location, and then because they're both using the same transform, there cannot be any floating point error after that fact. This would be a little bit complicated. I don't think it would be too complicated. I think it would actually be pretty reasonable to do. It might take me a day or two to sort out, but excuse me. But I think that might get me the best results in terms of, like, it gives me something that I can use at runtime. It would be very quick to calculate these meshes, as far as I'm concerned. Or at least it would be reasonably quick. Quick enough, at least. Because meshes aren't all that complicated. There's not that much in them. So it shouldn't take too long per mesh. And then after that, like, I just need to do that for every single room in the game. And there might be, I don't know how many rooms there'll be at the end. But, at most, maybe it can't possibly be more than a few dozen. And that's shooting pretty high already. So yeah, there's my thoughts on that. I think it's the most viable of any of the options. I would have to test it out to see how well it runs, but I'm pretty confident that would work out without much, if any, issue. Again, still have to do a lot to do that, but I think it's reasonable. Anyways, the final bit. For the textures, one of the things that I'm wondering about is, do textures actually have much of a place in this world? Like, they have a few places. I'm pretty sure of that. Like, I think there are a few viable places for them. It's just, most textures I've used so far just don't work at all. And one of the things I am considering is that I'm using PBO textures, or physically based rendering textures, which are sort of, based for, that's, like, if you wanna, look at this, like, if you wanna make a realistic hexagon tile, then the textures here are perfect for that. But for what I'm doing, like, I need something, I need less realism. Like, I just need less realism than this. Like, this would be great if I was making a game that looked realistic. I think it would look great. I think I definitely would use it if I was doing something with hexagons in that. But, like, there's all, like, these detailed cracks and bumps and all these surface details that I don't want in my version. Like, I don't want those, you know? What I want is something very clean, very sleek, and very professional. And this, I mean, this is professional, but it's professional in a different sense. So just, this just doesn't work, you know? Like, this, like, warbles. You know, that would be great if you were dealing with something realistic, because you want that little bit of warble. That is what it would look like. That looks realistic. But I want perfection. I want exactness in what I'm dealing with. At least for the most part. I should try to experiment around with imperfections. Imperfections add a lot of life to things, and I think that might be nice for the art style. But imperfections are hard. They are really hard. Making something realistically imperfect is very difficult, relatively speaking, to making something that's exactly perfect. So, yeah. Stuff to think on. Anyways, that's all for now. If you have any comments, questions, ideas, or anything else on your mind, leave a comment below. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care.